Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sonya Jensen with Dr. Natalie Rahr. Most of you probably know that we've been running monthly women workshops out of Divine Elements. And the intention behind those workshops, they're called the Everyday Woman, is to basically get the everyday woman together in community to support each other. And what we thought by doing that, we can, come together in a safe place and really start stripping away at our belief systems. These beliefs, these imprints that we've been carrying with us our entire lives that have such a huge impact on the decisions that we make. We thought if we give these women a space to be able to dive into that, they can then really find themselves, find their real purpose. So what we've decided to do is every week talk to an amazing woman or women and talk about real stuff. Because when you go on social media, there's so much pressure about the way we're supposed to look or about the way we're supposed to be or how we're supposed to speak. So this way we can talk to one another about real things and bring those conversations that we have with each other to you and bring you into that conversation. And today, so happy to be talking to Natalie, who is one of my dearest friends. And we're going to talk about co-creating communities and why that's so important as women for us to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so maybe you can kind of start talking about your experience last week when you went to California.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess what this is really all about is the co-creating. So this is a term that I've only just been introduced to. It's not a brand new concept by any means. It's been pioneered by these women who wrote a book called The Co-Creator's Handbook. And their names, I have them written down so I don't mess them up, Carolyn Anderson and Catherine Rosk. And they've been living these principles for decades, building intentional communities and the things that are kind of lacking, kind of in a deficit in our society. And particularly, we talk about it in terms of women, and of course it pertains to everybody, but women are really the heart of communities, right? Women are the ones who bring everyone together.
Absolutely.
It's the woman who manages the family typically and knows, what babysitter to call and where the phone numbers are and the emergency numbers. Anyway, so how I was introduced to this concept was amazing. It was I was in California just actually a couple weeks ago now. It's gone by so fast. But and I was introduced to a lovely, amazing woman named Myra McCullough, and she and I just had these really charged conversations. And when I say charged, like emotionally charged for me, because I felt like everything she said really hit home really strongly. Mm-hmm. And she has a coaching business that she's created, as well as an integrative health center out of her own home. Mm-hmm. She runs integrative body fitness classes, and really she's such an amazing woman and with such an inspiring energy to be part of. And maybe she's watching, so hi Myra. And what she has done has, based on this co-creation concept, she has created an intentional community amongst her own family on her property. So just in our discussions about what that meant, because she's of course an ambassador of that and a pioneer of that.
And it's not a new thing, right?
It's not a new thing.
This community, it's been around forever in different cultures, but it's coming back full circle, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, exactly. And I think that's why, it's coming back now because we're all starting to realize where the deficits are, right? And when we as physicians treat people holistically as possible in our offices, we're always talking to people who are struggling in ways that we may not be able to help them with an herb or something. There's loneliness there. Yeah. There's anxiety, depression, for reasons that, it's not just about what supplement you take. It's about, well, do you even have a community anymore? Yeah. And I really think that means we're going back to the root of what community is and what true health and harmony in a society truly is, and wellness.
Absolutely. And we've talked a lot about, even when we go traveling, because we love traveling.
Yes. And we met traveling.
We met traveling, that's right. And in a place like an ashram, that's where we met. Yes. And you think when you go traveling, you're kind of leaving everything behind, you're kind of needing some space to yourself. But really, even as women, when we're traveling, we seek community. So that's what happened with us. We were in an ashram, and that's the perfect place to be, just on your own, doing your yoga, doing your thing, but we just connected there because as women, that's just what we seek out.
Totally.
And that just happened to me my husband was pointing that out when we were in Baja, because we were there 2 years in a row, and the year before I made really great connections with these women, and then when I went the next time, I was missing them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I met more women and started connecting with them that I actually felt really grounded there. So it's like no matter where we go, we're seeking that community so that we can feel supported.
Absolutely. And I think that, like, for myself, I feel like travel is one of those things that allows me to really strip away the things, like all the mind fuzz in our society. And when we're doing that, it's like you empty the space, right? You clear space for your own true intention to just sit in that space, and then you're not even looking for a community. They just find you. Yeah, you attract it. You attract it and you call it in without even having to do anything. Yeah. And I think we're in this society where we're doing all the time. We're so focused on doing and not necessarily on being. So then it's not about, I mean, I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are guilty of this, living in a city, living in an urban community. You just seek retreat. You seek retreating from society. You want to almost go out into nature, which is great, but you want to go out for a while and be completely removed and isolated. And when I was talking with Myra McCullough about this, she even said, she's like, but that's not what we're meant for as humans, right? And if you imagine if we had lovely intentional communities again, where it's not a commune, you have your own private space, and everybody follows these lovely agreements that really just set you up for being respectful, good to each other, respectful human beings.
And honoring each other's differences. That's one thing we were talking about too. It's like, there's blocks that come up when you're trying to create communities, especially with women, right? Funny things happen when women are together because our patterns come up from when we were young or what we've been taught about ourselves, and we start comparing or we start feeling judged. I've noticed this in mom circles too. You may be raising your child a certain way, and you make a certain decision, and you may feel judged by another mother, or at the end of the day, you're actually going through the same thing, right? But maybe just in a different way. So if we can then kind of strip that away and just honor each other's differences, then we can actually create more of a community.
And I actually think that amount of judgment that we all sense on some level, and that we probably feel, because we're not above that. Like, there's still ego there that I manage every day. I think where that really comes from is that we don't underneath everything feel really, really secure. We don't have our community. We don't have the foundation. And so we all feel like we're floundering. And in order to feel good about ourselves and what we're doing, maybe we judge others. And maybe we point and go, oh, that's wrong. What I'm doing is right. That's what that means. And I think our world is kind of full of that. This modern world is really full of that, and people are suffering from it. Not because they're necessarily being judged, but from the judging, the act of judging. That means that comes from a very fearful place, in fact. And so it's not about, again, it's not about judging people for judging either. It's coming from somewhere.
Just
There's
being aware. That's there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about our bodies, like even physiologically, we're meant to seek community. Yes. Like when we're under stress, we release cortisol, which is our stress hormone, but we also release oxytocin. And what's oxytocin? That creates community. That creates bonding with others, and so we're meant to be in community and support one another. Yeah. And when that's getting blocked, that is when we feel disconnected. Right. And not only from others, but from ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. So that's huge.
Well, I actually even printed out like the co-creators agreements, and this is available online, and maybe I'll put it in the links later on below. But and I won't go through like all of them in detail, but like these, when Myra mentioned these to me and showed me this list of agreements that people who live in an intentional community create and live by. She was talking about how she created that within her family, with living with her 2 adult sons and her mother now, who's moved onto her property. And just being in that space was just incredibly healing, not even necessarily interacting with anybody. You could feel it just exuded this true community feeling. And the agreements, and that security. And the agreements really are about, being things that we need to teach people, from the womb, like when they're coming out, and they're like, it's like, okay, here, welcome to life. Now here are the agreements in how to be a human who's good to others.
And not framing them as rules, but agreements, because it's 2 parties coming together in agreement.
Exactly.
That this is what can serve us.
Because it's really essentially like being mindful, realizing our own potential, following your own internal guidance, communicating with integrity and acting with integrity. That's a huge one for me. I feel like as I get older and I think more about this stuff, I know that I've had personal experiences where I'm so aware that the integrity is simply not being upheld, whether that's in a work situation or what have you. And in the end, all I know is that it feels toxic and it's wrong for me. And I feel like, you know, if we were all set out from the very beginning, set up to do well at this and not fail at this, you know, not fail at being a human, you know, just sort of,
and not being judged for maybe failing
or stumbling or being a work in progress, you know, but just, you know, these communication skills, communication agreements, like listening deeply to someone, to truly hear what they're saying to you and not just calculating what is my response going to be out of maybe it's ego, maybe something you're saying makes me feel threatened, maybe and I don't want to say it, but I want to look like I'm not threatened by you know, there's so much that goes on. We're all stuck in our heads, but and then honoring one another. Anyway, it's just a lovely set of agreements. I'll put a
and that last point that you were talking about, and that happens with us even in working with patients, you know. I know I find myself sometimes a patient's talking, I'm already thinking, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can help them with this, but it's like, no, letting go of all of that and just being present, and that is the best medicine, just being present in that space to allow them to be who they are and just supporting that.
Absolutely.
And that's really the intention of coming together in community too, is allowing everyone to be who they are and to really tap into that truth, right? Not the belief systems that maybe a community in the past has put on them, or, you know, our parents who don't mean to, but that's just how they were brought up too. And, you know, the cultural stuff, all these imprints that we get, but just to be able to feel safe in that community space, to be able to shed it all.
Absolutely. And I think it's beautiful, like this handbook that these women created. They talk about, when you read the description of what this handbook, what the point of it is, it's to truly self-actualize, to truly realize your full, deep potential. You know, it's not just about, oh, I serve my community and I'm a martyr and I give everything and then I'm exhausted at the end of the day. That's not the point. It's all very much about reciprocity. Right, and this is where I think, you know, this sort of more holistic way of looking at humans is kind of going, because we have to get back to our roots. Like when we lived in villages, everybody's voice was accounted for. Everybody had a say. There were town meetings, there were village meetings, and there was somebody to guide them through and uphold these agreements. And we need that in our families. We need that in our lives. We need that with ourselves. So it's like the hardest relationships, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Too. So why do you think, you know, especially for women, you know, it's important for men to have their, you know, tribe too in their community, but why do you think it's so important for women to have that?
Yeah, for women, gosh, I think it's because we are really, whether we like it or not, we're really the heart of the communities, you know, and we set the tone in our families. We set the tone of how is today going to go? How is this week going to go? What is this life going to look like for us? And not to say that men don't have a say, absolutely. But it's just the masculine and feminine sort of energies. The feminine is the nurturer, you know, that abundant mama who feeds everybody and calls in the nurturing and makes sure that that's what's taken care of, right? The man is the hunter and he brings home the bacon, right? Or he brings home the
secure space, holds it for you.
But the woman is tending to the hearth, right? And that's if we're not with this co-creation, I think the point is that we're also then co-creating within the fractured elements of ourselves. Because if we're only creating our environment out there where where our families are, and we're giving, again, sacrificing ourselves, we're not being nurtured.
Martyr thing,
that's that martyr thing. And then we're not tending to our own hearth. And then then it's not a true hearth. It's more out of obligation and fear, and something's not going to get done on time, and then you're not even present. You're not even present in your own family, in your own community, and so that's, you know, kind of extrapolated. For me, it's just, it's all resonated so deeply.
And these are conversations you can have at home. I'm sure like a lot of partners kind of see, you know, their wife or their girlfriend or anyone that's, you know, holding that space for them, as soon as they're with their girlfriends or they have that time to be with themselves and they feel more centered, the whole home feels different. And my husband will say that a lot. You know, if I'm happy, everyone's happy. And I have 2 sons, so there's a lot of testosterone going on in my home. So I really seek this, you know, this like conversation with other women and just being with other women so that you can feel more like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and my husband and I don't have children yet, and yet you know, I'm so aware of that being my role in our little family with our dog, who's right over there watching us. You know, it's amazing how like those layers that it penetrates for all women, really. Whether whether you've been doing this and raising your family for decades and you're a crone,
it's never too late.
You're an elder, or it's never or you're just starting out.
And it, you know, community doesn't necessarily just mean you're within your family. Like if you're in school, in your profession, right? And anywhere you can build community. So what are some like take homes we can kind of tell them that they can start doing today, really, to kind of get that community going?
Well, I think to get the community going, I really believe it starts with yourself. It starts with yourself. You know, these can be big ideas, right? They can get a little bit too big, and we could get really excited and go full force with it, and maybe burn out from that. It's not but it's not about, you know, the mass. The women who created this, I believe they've also created an intentional community in New Mexico called the Hummingbird Intentional Community, and there are about 20 people who live in that intentional community. You know, so it's not huge. It's not thousands of people. This is 20 people. And some of the people might come and go, and maybe they migrate between communities. And I'm not saying, we all have to go out and start an intentional community. I mean, I live in a tiny condo with my husband and my dog. We can't share property with somebody. You know, if you can, wonderful. But so I think that taking a step back from that, it's really starting from the very basics of it, like the relationship with ourselves. I think that's where it really comes down to, like, you got to start from the ground up.
Having these agreements with yourself
with
first.
Yourself.
Right, and really honoring yourself, and then, you know, bring it into your small communities, like your home, your immediate home, and then branching out from that with your friends and your family, co-workers. You were just saying that on our next meeting, this is what we're going to be doing.
That's what we're going to talk about.
That's what we're going to
talk
not?
About. And that only, because it only ever creates abundance. So it's I think it's the takeaways really would be, you know, think about who your community is, and think about, are you in the right community? Are the right people there? Do you still need? Are you still looking for that right community? How do you draw that in? Well, how do you draw that in is, you know, you start with yourself, and then you open up that space for that right community to come in. And maybe it's one person for a while. Maybe then it's a second, and then a third. Who knows? But I think that's really where it starts.
So hopefully our conversation inspires you to kind of look, you know, deeper within yourself and give yourself that space to honor these agreements. We are so open to feedback and ideas. We're going to be doing these weekly and talking about, you know, anything from women's health to community-based projects and stuff. So we're here for you. So whatever it is that you need, please share that with us in the comments.
Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.